This is a session to understand sports diplomacy, contributing to peace and justice.
A major event in sports, not only today, but already in the past, has been the Olympic Games. When going back in time, we can see that the history of the Olympic Games goes back to the Peloponnese in ancient Greece around 3,000 years before. Researchers assume that the first games took place in Olympia in 776 before the Common Era. After that, they were held every 4 years up until around the year 393 and consisted of a variety of athletic competitions such as jumping, running, discus, and javelin throwing and wrestling. Starting with the Olympic Games as a one-day contest, it later developed into a 4-day event, ending with a 5th day on which prizes were given and a banquet for the champions was held. Originally, the sports contest was a part of a religious festival honoring Zeus. Its name mainly refers to the so-called Mount Olympus, which was assumed to be the home of the Greek gods, and therefore also refers to the event having an original religious purpose. It has to be understood that during that time, the Olympic Games played an important part in Greek life. For that reason, major political affairs in that region, also including war, were usually rescheduled in order not to interfere with the events. Connected to that aspect, the Olympic Games became a symbol of refuge from violence through the promotion of peace, as city-state conflicts were not supposed to be part of it. Here, it is interesting that before and during times of the Olympics, even a so-called Olympic truce was established, which was supposed to ensure safe travel for athletes and spectators to Olympia. Thus, especially Olympia during those times was free from warfare. Because of that, the Olympic Games were not only a sports event, but also brought together Greeks from different city-states, providing not only a platform for cultural exchange, but also the opportunity to emphasize shared cultural values and to foster a sense of community and understanding between the different people. Even though the Olympic Games during that time were also reasons for contests between city-states, they also helped to strengthen ties and build partnerships between the different regions. They were often seen as a unifying force that fostered a sense of community between the different Greek city-states, emphasizing cultural exchange and sportsmanship. Although the Olympics ended in the late 4th century, they continued to attract interest. In the late 19th century, efforts began to revive the Games, and in 1896, the first modern Olympics were held in Athens.
From ancient Greece to today, sports have always advocated non-politics and neutrality. However, paradoxically, the superficial neutrality that sports have stood for has acted as a factor in maximizing the instrumental usefulness of sports for a political gain. Locally, sports are means of social integration and formation of national identity. Internationally, sports are useful to improve national image and to improve relations with hostile countries. Sports were particularly useful during the Cold War. Communist countries implemented sports diplomacy to strengthen cooperation and solidarity with the communist system. In the past, major communist countries, including the Soviet Union, conducted sports diplomacy for strengthening solidarity between communist countries, improving relations through sports aid, and proving the superiority of communist system by superior sport performance in the Olympics. Also, sports are useful for diplomatic recognition and improving hostile relations. The Ping-Pong diplomacy between China and the United States in 1971 is the prime example. The dialogue between American table tennis players and their Chinese counterpart established a bridgehead between China and United States, and even meeting the leaders of both countries. In contrast, sports can be used for political resistance. One good example is the Black Glove incident at the 1968 Mexico Olympics. American gold medalist Smith and bronze medalist Carlos, who set a new world record in the men's 200-meter run, stood barefoot and wearing black gloves on the hand, turning away from the national flag while the American national anthem was played. This act was sent around the world as a message of political resistance against the oppression of black human rights in the United States and Europe at the time. The action of political resistance, taking advantage of international exposure at this sport platform, continues. In 2016 Rio Olympics, a marathoner representing Ethiopia reached the finish line in second place. He made an X sign with his both arms, and this was a type of protest criticizing the Ethiopian government for oppressing the Amora people living in Ethiopia. A similar grim attitude of resistance can be found in earlier Olympic history as well. In this photo of Berlin Olympic Marathon Awards ceremony, Sohn Kee-chung, a marathoner of Korea, covers the Japanese flag with a laurel leaf. Korea was under Japanese colonial rule, and the victory was recorded as Japan's sports achievement. This incident, however, turned more serious in the colonized Korea than hiding a flag in Berlin. When Sohn Kee-chung's victory was known in Korea, the entire people of Joseon were filled with excitement, so the newspapers published extra editions and reported it extensively. 15 days later, the 동아일보 article published the photo, but the Japanese flag on Sohn Kee-chung's chest was erased in the photo. In an article, a study on the historical significance of the erasure of the Japanese national flag. Drawn on historical data, two authors of Ha Jung-hee and Son Hwan described the situation that the managing board, including Kim Sang-soo, the owner of 동아일보, became furious, saying it was a senseless act. Hence, the two authors argue it is reasonable to conclude that the Japanese flag erasure was caused by employees and reporters, not the 동아일보's management. Of course, the Japanese flag obliteration originated from the expression of anger toward Japan, but it also was intended to give courage and hope to the Korean people by providing vicarious satisfaction through Sohn Kee-chung. But more importantly, on top of that, the authors argue it was a kind of warning message that awakened national consciousness when national leaders and prominent social figures were degenerating into pro-Japanese collaborators at the time. Lee Gil-yong, the reporter who initiated the erasing, and other reporters who participated in the erasing of the Japanese flag, were arrested, interrogated, and subjected to all kinds of harsh torture. It is said that the colonial police tied them with chains, beat them with bats, and used water for torture. Also, the 동아일보 was suspended for 9 months. In 2017, the government erected a bust of Lee Gil-yong, a sports reporter who led the movement to remove the Japanese flag, in front of the Sohn Kee-chung Memorial Hall. In this session, we studied a brief history of Korea's sport. Thank you.